My brother Frank, who was 10 years older than me, came in the afternoon. I'm sitting there watching my cartoons on the black and white Zenith. And he comes in, and they would put an album back then, as you're surely aware, in a brown sleeve. When you got an album, it came in a brown sleeve. He comes by me, and he turns the volume down on the black and white Zenith, much to my dismay. Not a happy 7-year-old that my cartoons turned down. And he heads over to the console. He pulls this album out. I'm sitting there stewing, and he puts it on the turntable. And why he chose not to start the album from the beginning, I to this day don't know. He dropped the needle on a sound that went dun 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 dun, and it was Spirits in the Night. And why that sound grabbed me as a 7-year-old kid, I cannot tell you. All I know is that it did, and that started my ride with Bruce.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Set Listing Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, but mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson, and joining me is a new friend. Ed reached out to me via email, said that he was enjoying the show, and much to his, I think, delight, but I warn you, if you send me an email, you're going to get an email back going, hey, when can you be on the show? So welcome to the podcast, Ed.
That's a true story. You will get an email. And and to my delight, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm honored to be involved in anything concerning Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band and fans alike.
Oh, that sounds great. So tell us a little about yourself.
So when I emailed you, I mentioned a little bit about me before Bruce Springsteen. Listen, I'm a guy. I actually get to work in the entertainment industry, and that happened to me a little later in life. But I'm a guy that grew up in a hard knock neighborhood in Derby in Southwest Philly, and growing up, I was the youngest of two brothers and a sister who were 8, 10, and 12 years older than me. And I had two parents, one good parent, one was a bit of a werewolf, and life went on, and I got involved in all kinds of things, some bad, some good, and along the way I ended up in some troubles, but I always came out of those troubles, and was fortunate later on in life to have a daughter born into my life, and she's been nothing but a constant source of joy. And then later on down the road, I got to be what's called a stagehand, and that's what I am today. I'm a stagehand. I'm a IATSE union member, local aid here in Philadelphia.
Nice. And, now, where are you a stagehand at?
It's a fun business to be part of, and I'm a very fortunate guy to be a rank and file union member here.
Absolutely. Now, where are you a stagehand at?
In Philadelphia.
Okay.
So
for different venues?
I go around from venue to venue, wherever the work's at.
How much has COVID-19 hurt you?
Heavy impact on us.
I bet.
Heavy impact on the whole industry.
Sure.
On the whole industry. And we're keeping an eye on things. Of course, a vaccine would solve many problems as far as getting people back together.
Yes, absolutely.
As you well know, there's nothing like live entertainment. You can park as many cars next to each other and try to have a show, which we have done. But there is nothing like being shoulder to shoulder, singing and dancing and sweating and feeling that energy inside a room when there's a band up on stage doing their thing. I had Maureen Van Zant
on the podcast a few weeks ago, and she talked about she went to a show that, they were separated, and you're kind of like in your own little section. And she said
The
you
little
just,
pod.
yeah, it just didn't feel the same because you didn't
Right,
have
sure.
that connection.
Sure. There is. There's that mystical connection that music and the human spirit bring together that it makes it unique. There's nothing like the show.
Absolutely. So I gotta start. So Philadelphia area, you an Eagles fan?
I am, and I have noticed from some of your writing you are a Cowboys fan.
Yes, though that's okay. As my friends who are Giant fans, and I have friends who are Eagles fans, the love of Bruce transcends the NFL.
If I can tolerate Chris Christie being who he is as a Cowboys fan, I can appreciate anybody being a Springsteen fan.
So yeah, so we won't spend too much long on this, but it's not a good season for the NFC East, is it?
It is not. It is not. Between the team that lost their nickname and my team and your team, it's been pretty hideous so far.
So I'm a big the sports radio station I listen to here in Dallas is the Ticket,
right.
And one of them had a theory that the tie your Eagles got will end up being the difference. Like you guys will have a half a point better than anyone else in the East and will win the division because you guys had a tie.
in one of the worst games I've ever seen, by the way. It was just a horrendous game all the way around. And we may benefit from that. However,
yes,
neither one of our teams are good enough to win a Super Bowl. And I can tell my friends, it's good. This is not the year you want to have a parade anyway.
Exactly. So, good point. So my son adores the Cowboys, and
right.
he and I've told this story multiple times. He was born in '89, and he is quick to tell you, February of '89, he was born during the Landry era. Jerry Jones bought the team 2 weeks after he was born. And so funny, yesterday at work, it was Saint and Sinner Day. It's Halloween week as we're recording this. And so you could either dress as a saint or a sinner. And I wore my Roger Staubach throwback jersey, and I said, I can't think of a better saint than Staubach.
I'm trying not to throw up, Jesse.
I understand. So
you're a legitimate Cowboys fan. You live in Dallas.
Yes.
You're from down there. It's the Cowboys fans that are up here amongst me.
Yes.
That rub me the wrong way.
Absolutely. So, and then one last thing, and then we'll move to Bruce. There is the local station I do a wonderful, I think, and you will either hate it or you'll say yes, that is, they do the Touchdown Brothers, which are parody of Philadelphia sports station, and they're always like, oh, like back in the day, like Andy Reid, like they were like, Wade Phillips, that is a horrible coach. He is such a poor specimen now. Like Andy Reid, that is a good looking man. And so it is so funny, and we're just laughing because the Cowboys need to be ripped. They're always talking about it, and they always have Sal with South Philly call in and says, can I ask you guys a question? Sure. Do the Cowboys suck or what? And great question. It is truly there is so much rivalry of the team that doesn't have a name anymore, the Giants, the Eagles, and the Cowboys.
It's a lot of fun, isn't it?
It is. It is a lot of fun.
It's good sports hate. That you're allowed to have. If you're allowed to hate in this world, it's in sports.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. We enjoy it up here. Let me tell you. And Eagles Cowboys week, no matter what the record is always a fun lead-in week.
Absolutely. So as we're doing this, yeah, we got that coming up this week. Well, you mentioned growing up, so talk to me a little bit, like, you know, growing up where you were, was there, you mentioned you had one good parent, you had one not so good parent. Talk about
Mhm.
what kind of, how was the music in your house growing up as a
Yeah,
kid?
yeah, it was eclectic. It
Okay.
was Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra. It was the Beach Boys and the Beatles. Um, it was Sam Cooke. It was the Shirelles, Ronettes, Aretha Franklin. Um, it was a nice the Doors, Jeff Rotal. All these albums got played on this RCA console that we had, with the stereo built into it and the turntable built in there, and and that's the turntable. If you don't mind, I'll tell a quick
Oh,
story
please.
of
This show is
how,
all about stories, Ed, so please.
how Bruce actually came into my life.
Yeah.
So I was a 7-year-old kid sitting on the floor of my living room in the row home I grew up in. My brother Frank, he was 10 years older than me, uh, came in the afternoon. I'm sitting there watching my cartoons on the black and white Zenith, and he comes in and they would put an album back then, as you're surely aware, in a brown sleeve. When you got an album, it came in a brown sleeve, and the big guy came walking through. You entered their house in the back door was the kitchen first, then the living room. I'm sorry, then the dining room, then the living room. And I'm in the living room, and he comes by me and he turns the volume down on the black and white Zenith,
Yes.
much to my dismay. Not a happy 7-year-old to have my
Absolutely.
cart, yeah, to have my cartoons turned down. And he heads over to the console, and he pulls this album out, and I'm sitting there stewing, and he puts it on the turntable. And why he chose not to start the album from the beginning, I to this day don't know. Um, but he dropped the needle on a sound that went dun 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 dun, and it was Spirits in the Night. And why that sound grabbed me as a 7-year-old kid, I cannot tell you. Is all I know is that it did, and and that started my ride with Bruce. And my brother Frank that I'm talking about, he was just about 18 at that time. He just turned 18, and so in the ensuing couple years there in 73, 74, he was going to get to see Bruce at the Main Point legendary shows. He was going to get to see him at Westchester College and Widener College, and and a few other small venue places that I of course never got to see Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band play at. Um, if there's any jealousy in my heart concerning anything, it's that I wasn't old enough to be there for those shows. But you kind of got to write that one off.
You know,
Um,
what I love, Ed, is first off, I picture that.
please,
Um,
please call please call me Doc.
all right, Doc. So
I
one of the
appreciate
things I love is that it sounds like I'm a few years older than you. I was born in '59, and I do
it.
remember my parents, having this massive console, right? You had the TV in one, and then you lift up the side, and there was the turntable, and then the other side was like the AM FM radio, and it so that makes me smile. The other thing that I love is um, this is a common theme, Ed. No matter when you there is a regret or a wistfulness that you could have seen Bruce more often, right? Like I had a guy that was just on as we're recording this like last week who talked about he was uh, an, working at an AP grocery store in the Jersey area, and all his buddies like, oh, you need to go see this Bruce guy. You need to see this Bruce guy. And he said, I'm from Brooklyn. I know, I don't need to see anybody from Jersey. And he said that he missed all those early shows. So, yeah, you at least were like, yeah, I mean, you couldn't convince your 18-year-old brother to bring his little kid brother to the show, right? Like, yeah, like, get me into the bar. Come on, dude. I just tell him I gotta, tell him I have a growth complex. It's like, yeah.
Not quite yet, but he does get me to my first show the first time Bruce headlines the Spectrum in Philadelphia, which is October 1976.
Very nice. Now, how old would you have been then?
My birthday was October 21st, and I was inside the Spectrum with my brother Frank and two of his buddies. On October 25th, 4 days later, I was 11 years old.
How very cool. By the way, as we're recording this, it's the 28th, so happy birthday, a little bit late.
Oh,
so, yeah. That's awesome. So it sounds like your brother helped feed that Bruce fandom. I won't call it obsession or passion. It sounds like he helped feed that to you.
He was the power source behind me getting involved with Bruce, and as time went on, he wasn't so much involved with the E Street Nation, but my experiences in the E Street Nation continued to grow and expand and just a world of fun. Just a world of fun.
So as you're growing up and you're now, like you're hitting 16, you're getting 18, you're hitting, your teenage years and older. So I take it Bruce continued to be something that you were a fan of?
Yeah, very much so. He became my number one guy. All the other bands that I liked, they were all right. They were good, and I went to a lot of different concerts. And
sure.
But it was Bruce that was the guy. I was identified as a Bruce Springsteen fan, and if you wanted to know anything about what was going on with Bruce, you check with Doc. Doc will tell you. And it's always fun to talk about yourself in the third person. So,
but I understand what you're saying, Doc. You've kind of already expressed this, but I assume your brother may have heard Spirit in the Night on the radio, and that's why when he bought the album, he played it first. But you've actually given some thought about this, so you can't tell me why that song spoke to 7-year-old you. But have you given thought to, as you continue to grow and learn, what about Bruce captivated you?
Yeah. It's a great question, and it's the stories was the initial thing. It wasn't his voice, it wasn't the sound. There was a story in there, and like just as an example, Spirit in the Night is a story about friends getting together, having fun, that kind of thing. Lost in the Flood, which was also on that album, as you well know. It's a story about guys coming home from Vietnam and the the kind of vacant look they had in their eyes returning home and to a life that was a little different than the one they were experiencing over in South Asia.
Sure.
And Southeast Asia, excuse me. And I saw some of that in my neighborhood of guys returning home from there. And so there was all that going on around, and it was the stories within the songs that really drew me to constantly seek out his music. There was a story being told there of other people's lives that he seemed to have some understanding of, and I think maybe in my little life I was trying to have some understanding of what was going on in the world that I was in. And I always felt Bruce kind of hit home to the places that I knew.
Did so I always like to preface this question with a little bit of, I believe that the amount of times you've seen Bruce live is not a fair barometer of how big of a fan you are. You living in Philly, you probably have, in your age, you had a lot of chances to see him. There's people that grew up in Canada or California or like in the South and Texas that may not have had many people that are older. Economic situations, everything can affect how often you've seen him. But for the record, do you know how many times you've seen him live?
I do.
Okay.
54 and a half.
54 and a half. Okay, there has to be a story in the half.
There's always a story, Jeff.
That is what I'm here for. So continue.
Yeah. Well, the half show one was Tunnel of Love Tour. He was in for 2 nights. I had a ticket for 1 night. I went down there to see if I could buy a ticket off a scalper on the other night, and was unsuccessful. The scalper, the show was sold out, and there really wasn't any tickets to be had. And so I spent the first half of the show like the ear pressed to the door, the big door, trying to hear what was going on. And I could hear the show a little bit, and I'm like, I got to get in there. So I had a few ducats in my pocket, and I went to the door, and the old Spectrum, right at the door where you would enter, there was a turnstile, and the security guy right on the other side of that, security and a ticket taker. And I said, listen, I got to get in there. And the guy says, how much you got on? And I said, here, I got 50 right here. And he took my 50, and in the show I went, and got to hang out with a guy who was a legend in Philadelphia radio, a fellow by the name of Ed Shockey.
Okay.
And Ed played a real important role in Bruce's early career, and as far as getting his stuff played on the radio. And so I didn't have a seat, so I kind of stood in the aisle, and Ed was on the end of the aisle I was at, and the show went on, and enjoyed the rest of the night, and that's that little half the show story.
So what I'm laughing at is it's a Tunnel of Love show, and I'm thinking of All That Heaven Will Allow, right? Because he's going there, say, hey there, Mr. Bouncer, now I want to do his dance. Come on, Slim, let me in. I'll make it up to you sometime. You, of course, he didn't have to do that. That is great. That is really funny, and I love that you call it half the show, right?
Yeah. I had another show where I got to see a whole show without paying, without even having to give it. And that was on the reunion tour.
Okay. And what happened? Like yes, please.
So sure. So the Bruce coming to town for 5 shows at what is now the Wells Fargo Center, and 1 show at the Spectrum. So right. It's going to be 6 nights, 5 in one building, 1 in the other. And I have tickets for the 16th at the Spectrum. This is September 99. The 16th at the Spectrum, the 21st at the new place, and the 25th at the new place. So I'm working at a bar restaurant at the time, and there were shows on the 13th and 15th, which I did not have tickets for. And people would come into the bar after the show telling me how great the show was. So I really can't wait till the 16th to go. And the 16th comes, and a hurricane comes through the area, canceling the Spectrum show. So now I'm going to have to wait till the 21st to go see him. So the 20th arrives, and he's got a show that night, and I got money in my pocket, and but I don't have a ticket. So I head over to Philly, go drink for a little while at a buddy of mine's bar, and then hop on the Broad Street subway and down to the sports complex area. I go, and I get down there, and a band called Backstreets is playing outside in a tent, and I go in, I hang out with them for a little while. And I have not yet been in this new building that's been built. It's been open for 3 or 4 years, but I haven't been in there yet. I've only ever been in the Spectrum. I haven't been in there for a Flyers or Sixers game or a concert. And so I go and I scope the situation out, and I see that no longer at the doors are turnstiles. They're set in a little ways, about, I don't know, 10 to 12 feet. And they're on a bias, they're on an angle. And from where the last turnstile is to the wall is nothing but an extension band. So, and not much security hanging around. So I go back outside, and I have a little conversation with the God of my understanding. And I says, God, you think I can sneak in this show tonight? And he says, well, why don't you give it a try? And I went through the doors. I ducked under that little extension band, and I'm walking down the corridor, and I'm waiting for the hand on the shoulder.
Sure, like this is okay. I know how this is going to end.
I'm almost positive I'm not going to get away with this. But show a little faith. There's magic in the night. And down the corridor I go, and I see one of the VOMs. I walk through there, and to the right of me is a young lady in a wheelchair. She's in the handicap section there, and there's an usher, ticket taker, director your seat kind of person there.
Yeah.
And we all say hello, and the ticket lady doesn't ask me for a ticket. I says, you got a problem with me hanging out here? She says, no, not at all. And the house lights go down. Out comes Bruce and the band. And they open up a Candy's room and go right into Adam Raised the Cane. And we had a ball.
That is awesome.
And that was great. It was just a great night. And I still to this day am amazed that there was no hand on my shoulder telling me I had to go.
That is awesome. That's so funny. That is great.
I'm always willing to pay to get into the show, but sometimes you can't get a ticket, and
yes,
circumstances led to that occasion. So. Okay.
You're past where they can charge you for trespassing, right? Like, yeah. So,
and once I see the house lights go down, I know I'm good.
Yeah,
nothing
absolutely.
Bad. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good. But with the house lights up, I'm 6'5". I'm pretty easy to,
Yes.
I'm never thrilled when the cops show up. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
At 6'5", they pick you out pretty quick.
Exactly.
So.
Is any other stories from shows?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure I could. The very first show, that's such a blaze. I don't have a whole lot from that. He opened that show up with a song he doesn't play. He opened the show up with Night that night.
Right.
And I remember that. Not one of the heralded songs of Bruce's career, but that, that was my first introduction to Bruce playing live. And but here one night, August, with my brother Frank again, in August of '78, we're there, show's going on, it's a great show, and Bruce says, hey, you got a special somebody we're going to bring out here, and just the star of a new movie, and out comes Gary Busey.
Oh, how funny.
Gary, who had just his the Buddy Holly story had just come out.
Absolutely.
And they ripped it up on they played Rave On, and one or two other songs, and it was a blast just to have that action going on.
That's a nice memory. I've talked about this before that um, we we had saw the Buddy Holly story with Gary Busey at the theater and had loved it. That was my first exposure to Buddy Holly, and and was amazed at the music. I know that they filmed a lot of the music live, and I would have loved. I would go crazy. I still do with Buddy
Yeah,
Holly
yeah.
music. That would be fun. That would be a great
What,
memory.
one of the shows I got to put in a theater up here at the oldest working theater in America, called the Walnut Street Theater.
Okay.
I got to put the Buddy Holly story in.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but it was great. And then one of the perks of working at that venue is if you put the show in, and you want tickets for the show, they will hold tickets for you.
Oh,
and,
good.
Yeah. So me and the girl, me and Marlena, we sat first row at that show, and it was awesome. It was a great show.
Yeah. You mentioned your daughter. Is she a Springsteen fan?
My daughter is a Springsteen fan. Originally probably by proxy.
Yes. Yes.
But I got her to her first show in 2012.
Okay.
Once again in September, and that was at outdoor shows at the ballpark at the Phillies Stadium.
Okay.
And I'll tell you one thing about that show. I've seen Bruce 54 and a half times. It's the only time I ever seen Bruce come out on stage when I could tell at the start of the show that he was tired.
You could tell.
I could tell, and we didn't have great seats that night. We were in the middle of the field, and but when you get to know the guy, as I'm sure you do, you can pick up on certain little things with him. And he did. It was a little rainy that night, and he had played a show that I missed 2 nights before that because I was working, and a show that was supposedly really, really, really terrific. And and he was a little tired that night.
Yeah.
And but if you were anybody else or a new fan, you would know,
right?
Because it was still a killer show. It was so,
absolutely.
My daughter was amazed. At one point, he sat down on the drum riser and took his boot off, and the water that drained out of his boot from sweating.
Oh, how funny!
She could not believe how hard that man works. So and then she's gotten to see him a few times since then, and yeah, Bruce has his own little place in her heart.
That is awesome. What is the last show you got to attend with him?
That was the United States record holder.
Yes.
Which September 7th. I'm sorry. I was at the record holder, then I was there 2 nights later. So the last show was a show after that. But yeah, the record holder night was fantastic.
I imagine.
The first 12 songs were from 73.
Right.
We're off the first 2 albums, plus Thundercrack, plus something else. But it was a phenomenal opening. And I was there with great Union brothers and sisters of mine, and my daughter. And we had a blast. We were down there pretty close to the stage on the field. And I actually had my closest run-in with Bruce. Me and Michael, who's the president of my local, before the show started, we went off to go use the bathroom that the folks that put in the show can use.
Yeah.
And so we each do our business, and I'm pulling open the door to exit the bathroom. Michael's behind me, and I can hear the golf cart coming. So I just started to step out, and the golf cart, and there it is. There's Bruce. There's Bruce in the golf cart. And so I make sure there's not another golf cart coming. And sure enough, there was. And the rest of the band, and they all line up. And now me and Michael walk around, and I got to go have a great show. and back out onto the field I went. And he waved, he was like, yeah.
Now, were you able to help were you involved with helping to put on the show for that one, or just because of your connection with the union?
Here's the deal with me. No. Those are bought tickets. I always buy tickets. The key there was, here's my thing. I don't work Springsteen. I only go to Springsteen. So the one time I did put Springsteen in was, I don't want to give the location because it was a rehearsal period for him. So I got to put that show in, and then they were there for like 2, maybe 3 weeks, and then go back and take the show out. The unique experience I had in putting that show in, and he's got a great road crew. I mean, really, Sean McGovern, great guy. You get Todd, the lighting guy, Brad Brown, another lighting guy, John Cooper, his sound guy. These are really good guys. Really good technicians, and a pleasure to work with. But the one thing I got to do that was unique when we put that rehearsal show in was Bruce's mic, if you don't know, sets into the stage for when he likes to hang off it.
Right, yes.
So it's not like any other mic stand on the stage.
Right.
So that is bracketed, braced underneath the stage. To make sure that is okay, they needed somebody to go stand in Bruce's spot at that mic.
Yes.
And put some weight on it, and make some moves on it.
Yeah.
And I was the guy.
Oh, how fun!
So I got to stand there in position and stomp my feet, going, oh, 1, 2, 3, 5. And yeah, just like you're laughing, I was having the time of my life.
Oh, I bet.
It was cool.
I bet.
It was cool. Yeah.
Well, I got to ask you, so what do you think of the new album?
So I'm only one full listen through so far.
Nothing wrong with that. I understand.
My daughter got it for me for my birthday, so that was very nice of her. And
yes.
She's always doing good stuff. What a great human being. But she so last night driving, I took a nice drive and listened to the album start to finish, and it's a quality album. I enjoy it. There's a couple standout moments. I think the title cut's really, really good. The Ghost song, I enjoy. The lead cut was a nice little mellow piece. I wasn't expecting that as the opening piece. But it's a nice, cool tune. So, like anything, you got to give it a few listens through. But
absolutely,
how about
you got to live with it. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm struck by, and I said this recently when I was talking to Terry Smith, who does the Music Talks podcast, that I think If I Was a Priest is what Outlaw Pete should have been, because there's both a little bit of Western. And I picture Burning Train is kicking off, like when they're coming up on stage, right, and the house lights go down.
Uh-huh.
I could just see them going into Burning Train the same way, like when they released Meet Me in the City, for the box, and it was like just a great way to start a show. I see Burning Train starting.
Of all the songs I've ever heard him open with,
yeah,
Meet Me in the City might be the best song I've ever heard him open a show up with.
I will not argue with you. I agree with that.
I mean, it's that good. It sets the mood. It sets the night perfect.
It really did. And, I was lucky enough to go to 4 of the River tours where he did the full album. And then he went to Europe, and then he came back, and then I was lucky enough. The only time I've seen him in Jersey was just a couple nights before your Philly show where he set the record, because that second night in Jersey, he went almost 4 hours, or bent 4 hours. It was as close. It was, and then he officially, broke it like a day or two in Philly, but when they would come out and do that Meet Me in the City, and then they would do the instrumental, and he goes, "We're going to take you down to the river," and he's kind of the introduction of the whole night, and then they go into that music. I agree. It is as a strong a start of a show you can. I totally agree with you. It
really is. Yeah. How long have you been able to go to Springsteen shows?
So, great question. Because of my circumstances, I was a casual fan. I first heard about him in '80, and this was when my wife had a friend who was going to school up in the East Coast, and she came back. This was like in 1980, and talking about there's this guy Bruce Springsteen that just everyone loves, and so I ended up buying The River, and like everyone else, I heard Hungry Heart, and then bought Born in the USA, like everyone in America. I remember buying Tunnel of Love and buying the box set, but that was about it. Then I kind of faded away, and then when he toured, I didn't think about seeing him for Ghost of Tone Joad, because I didn't move until Dallas to like '86, and so for various circumstances, 2002, the Rising tour, when he comes to Dallas, was the first time I'd had a chance to see him.
Wow.
And, and Doc, I've told this story multiple times. I think there's two kinds of people: the people that see Bruce their first time and go, "Wow, that was a long show," and then the other people that go, "Oh my goodness, I have to go see him every time I can." And I was the second.
Right.
And seeing,
and there's a lot of truth in what you just said there. Yeah. And
so once I heard him in the Rising, and I had bought the album, but I had not, like you, I had listened to it just once, kind of casually, a couple times. So I felt like I didn't do my homework. Like when I went to that gig, I didn't know anything. So then when Devils and Dust came out, I listened to that thing over and over again. And when he came out on, solo, I was ready. I had my ticket, and I knew every song that he was going to do.
Right.
And
that's awesome.
And then just slowly but surely became more obsessed. So, so I think I've seen him 16 times, including I got lucky enough to see him one time on Broadway, which was just a pure gift. Just I ended up getting a ticket, and my wife said, "We have no business spending the money, but there's no way I'm going to tell you no." If we can figure out a cheap flight, because from Dallas I can't take a train, but we found a cheap flight.
No, you can't.
We found a cheap flight. We found a cheap hotel for me, and I was able to go, and it was just something pretty special.
You got to see that.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah. I did not make that show. I can't believe how long it went on for. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was. It was.
So when Netflix releases the show, right?
Yeah.
But my daughter was up in Brooklyn. That's where she's living now. And so I darkened the house as dark as I could make it. I got a folding chair, sat it in the middle of my living room, and went to Netflix and pushed play. And that was my theatrical experience with the Broadway show. And I enjoyed it immensely.
That is awesome. That is so much fun. That was so good.
That had to be a real personal experience being in that theater when it went on.
It was, and I had, and there were a couple moments where um, I was so, um, in 2015, I had been diagnosed with colon cancer, and I'm fine now. I'm in remission, but
Okay, good.
I'd
Excellent.
had surgery, and so, you know, Better Days and Land of Hope and Dreams were two songs that I played over and over and over again.
Sure.
And so to hear
Sure.
him do that acoustical version of Dancing in the Dark and going to Land of Hope and Dreams, that kind of segue, and
Right.
was just amazing. It was just
Right.
wonderful to hear it live.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's nice. You have those songs that help
yeah,
build you up as you went through that. That's
absolutely. Now, how
that's
about you?
fantastic.
You've mentioned you've had your own struggles and you've had your
Well,
own
yeah,
challenges. Are there songs that have helped you get through tough times?
yeah. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and um, was hooked on the methamphetamine there for about 22 years too. So
Oh,
I'm
wow.
not sure if I was a drug addict or just a wide awake alcoholic.
Hmm.
But either way, it got done, and fortunately, I was still alive when it came time to put the drink down and find out what life without that is all about. And so, you know, there has always been, there was a lot of times throughout my drinking history that I was riding high in April and shot down in May.
Yeah,
And more often than not, there was a lot of shot down in May. And it was Bruce's Darkness on the Edge of Town album, the entire album, that literally 43 minutes of music that was always my driving force to pick myself up by bootstraps, and get on with life, go back and face life, and and try to be as successful as you can in this world, and with its people, and to try not to hurt the people that you care about. But until I put the drink down once and forever, one day at a time, for good, I was going to keep having that shot down in May
yeah.
experiences. And but Bruce's Darkness album is something that I would turn to, that would often lead me out of the darkness and back into the light, and put me back with my friends and my family, and have a good turn for a while until once again shot down in May. Um,
Well,
and then yeah,
congratulations on your sobriety.
I'm not
I
I guess, trust me.
It is. I know my brother is in the program, and I know the struggle
Mm-hmm.
that he has had. I've certainly had my share of. I've never had that specific challenge, but I certainly have um, my addictions. I've struggled with my weight my whole life, and health
Sure.
reasons, the health things that come from that. And I know it it is a difficult path, my friend. And so well done. And I know it is a struggle every day, but I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah, and thank you for your words. I appreciate that. And please know that today is not a struggle where that's concerned.
That's
And
nice.
and I'm a fortunate guy for that. And I got a lot of help and continue to get help uh, with that, just by being involved with people. Um,
You know,
and
what I found interesting and kind of leading right that is how honest Bruce was in his book
yes,
about his depression, and in
absolutely.
all the interviews. And I think that's a really strong thing to share. And to go back to our sports analogy, right? Like Dak Prescott, the quarterback that just got hurt with the Cowboys, he had shared how he lost his mother to colon cancer, his brother had committed suicide, and he was sharing how he was fighting depression and he was getting help
Hmm.
for it. and Skip
Right.
Bayless made fun of him because, hey, that isn't how you show strength. And to be fair, as a whole, almost everyone sports fans, totally said, Skip Bayless, you're full of S.
Yeah,
That is
that says
exactly.
all you need to know about Skip Bayless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think to Bruce's credit, he's open about how he, through therapy and through medication, he's fought his demons. And like he talked about at Western Star, there was a time in his life, if he loved you, he was going to hurt you before you could
Hmm.
hurt him.
Sure. Sure.
And I think we've all done those kind of foolish things
Yeah.
as, in our life struggle. So good for you. Very nice.
Yeah. And good for Bruce. And you know, I think Bruce holds back a little bit because I guess he's not so sure how much he has helped people, not just with his music, but with revealing that. And I'm sure there's people out there that heard that Bruce suffered from depression and went, "What the hell's he got to be depressed about?" you know,
Yeah.
and, there's a disconnect sometimes with human beings and their understandings of what price fame has on it, and that the people that are famous started out just like you and me, and,
Well said, Doc. Yeah.
you know, and they carry all that stuff inside them, and all the houses they were born into, and the families and the struggles of those people in their lives. And I got a brother right now who just got diagnosed. My brother Joe, who he just got diagnosed with the prostate cancer, and but he's going to be okay. We got confidence. He's getting surgery next month, and my sister's certainly been through her trials and tribulations, and they're good people. Good people.
Yeah.
I hope your brother's doing okay.
Yeah, he is. It is good.
Good.
So, talk to me when he tours again, are there
Sure.
songs that you haven't got to see live that you want to hear?
Here's my song that I would like to see him play live with the band that I have never seen him play.
The song you're chasing.
Yeah. And it's a tough one because its lyrics are the body of another song.
Mm-hmm.
So the song I want played live is "Living on the Edge of the World."
Okay.
Okay, you familiar with that song?
Sure.
Yeah. So, but it's got all the lyrics of State Trooper in it.
Yes.
From Nebraska, but it's a real kind of like a upbeat punk type of
Sure,
sound.
absolutely.
I would just love to watch him and the band play that and watch him on vocals doing that song. I think that would be a blast to see.
That is great. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
So Doc, what have I not asked you that I should have?
Let's see. You didn't ask me what my favorite album was.
Okay, well, I assumed it was Darkness. You had mentioned how much darkness had meant to you. So
It does.
Okay.
It's my go-to for when I need redemption in this world. Yeah.
Okay.
But start to finish,
Yes.
lyrically speaking, I love Nebraska.
Yeah.
I just love that album. From the first harmonica pitch, it captured me then in 1982. I was a young man,
Yeah.
and I remember the date it came as September 20th, 1982. It has always stayed with me. It is what I play in the car after 11 p.m. at night.
Yeah.
And then of course the Born to Run is a remarkable album, and I did that thing recently on its anniversary where I tried to clear my mind of all the times I've ever heard the album and listened to it fresh, as fresh as I could, and it's a spectacular album, just spectacular piece of rock and roll. So
that's interesting. And you know, I don't know if you watched the the interview that was just recently on YouTube. I can't remember the actor, but there was a guy that just did an interview with him, and Bruce picked up the guitar and says, "Yeah, I wrote most of Nebraska with this guitar," and he started playing
cool.
it. So yeah,
Cool.
I'll send you the link so you can check it out if you haven't seen it.
I have seen a few things. I listened to the Conan podcast.
Yes.
And I saw him on Colbert.
Yes.
Last week. The Conan podcast was fun. That was a lot of fun.
I thought that was really good. I agree. Yeah, it was really fun.
On the Colbert, he started singing the song and forgot the words. And that was great. That was a great little moment in history.
That was so funny. I love that. Yeah, that is so good. All right, so it's time for the Mary question. So, for those of you who have not heard the podcast before, the Mary question is: Jay Armstrong is a honors English teacher in the Philadelphia area, and every year he has his students take 2 days, and they take Thunder Road and break it down as a poem. They review the lyrics. He talks about the imagery in the song. He talks about it's compared to Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken, and go through all this meanings of the song. And at the end of the 2 days, Jay asked this class, so at the end of the song, does Mary get in the car? So Doc, that is your question. Does Mary get in the car at the end of Thunder Road?
There is no way she does not get in the car.
There you go.
She gets in the car. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You just that's no thought, right?
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. There's no way that the Mary I know does not get in that car.
All right. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, nope. Asked and answered. Very good.
What say you?
I am an optimist, so I believe she does. I ask this at the end of every podcast, and about 60% say yes, about 40% say no. And there's been a lot of different reasons. I have heard one of my favorites is that she gets in the car, yes, and that Moonlight Motel from Western Stars is when he's celebrating. That's Mary. He's mourning Mary's death because they got in the car, went all the way to California, and spent a life together. Right. Another person said, well, absolutely, because in Racing in the Street, when they talks about my baby's on her father's porch, that's the same porch that's on Thunder Road. So absolutely. Yeah. Huh. Doc, this was a blast. I had so much fun. I hope you had a good time.
Same here. Nah, absolutely. It's I could go on with you for hours and hours, but you have a show to cut and edit. And,
yes, I do.
Understand that. So one thing I know for sure: shows start and shows end.
Yes, because you're a professional. Thank you, sir. I want to end with tonight. I'll be on that hill because I can't stop. I'll be on that hill with everything I got. Lies on the line where dreams are found and lost. I'll be there on time, and I'll pay the cost for wanting things that can only be found in the darkness on the edge of town.
Fantastic, Jesse. Great way to close it out.
Thank you, my brother. So much. You be good. You be safe. Listeners, you be safe. Be careful. Remember to wear an effing mask. Take care of yourself, and we will talk to you soon.
You the same, and take care of you and your family, please. Take care.
Doing a podcast at times can be a one-way conversation, and I hate that. So please let me know what you like and don't like about the work I'm doing. You can reach the podcast via email at setlistingbruce@gmail.com. The show is on Twitter at setlistingbruce, and my personal Twitter is at JesseJacksonDFW. We have a website, www.setlistingbruce.com. From there, you can find links to other Springsteen podcasts as well as other music-themed podcasts. We have a page devoted to our own SLB All-Star Band. These are guests who have been on the podcast more than 3 times. There is a link to our store where you can purchase Set Listing Bruce shirts as well as a Mary Question t-shirt. There is a link to our Patreon page where you can sign up to help support the podcast financially. We have different levels and different rewards based on your support. If you don't have any extra cash, and right now who does, you can support the podcast by subscribing via your favorite podcast player and leaving us a review. The more reviews we have, the easier it is for people to find us. And please tell a friend about the podcast, especially if they love Bruce or music, because it will make a difference. You just heard the fun talking, hard rocking, music loving, album ranking, fan thinking, joy spreading, lyric reading, story sharing podcast that is the one, the only Set Listing Bruce. Set Listing Bruce is part of the Southgate Media podcast group. The theme for Set Listing Bruce was written by David Rosen, used by permission.